The morning sky loomed low and gray over the small town of Maple Hill, the kind of sky that promised rain but couldn't quite commit. 12-year-old Ellie Dawson pulled her oversized hoodie tighter around her as she walked toward Jackson Middle School, her worn-out sneakers making soft slapping sounds on the cracked sidewalk. The damp chill seeped through the fabric of her clothes, but Ellie barely noticed. Her mind was elsewhere, on the homework she hadn't finished, on the shoes that pinched her toes, and on the ever-growing ache of trying to blend into a world that made her feel like she didn't belong. She slipped through the school side entrance, like she did every morning, hoping to avoid the usual hallway stares and whispers. It never worked. Her hoodie, a faded red with peeling letters that once spelled Wildcats, was her security blanket and her camouflage. It was also the most recognizable piece of clothing in the entire school because she wore it every day. Her classmates had taken notice months ago, and middle schoolers, as Ellie had learned, didn't need much reason to be cruel. "Hey Ellie, wash that hoodie with dish soap again," a boy snickered as she passed his locker. She kept her head down, pretending she hadn't heard. That was her method: keep walking, don't engage, don't give them fuel. The name-calling, the laughter, the pitying looks, those were constant. What mattered was getting through the day without breaking. If she could just make it to the end of homeroom, she'd count it a victory. She stepped into her classroom, slid into her seat at the back, and tried to disappear. But then she noticed it, a folded piece of paper lying on her desk. For a second, her stomach twisted with unease. Notes like that never brought good news. She opened it carefully, bracing herself. The handwriting was jagged, hurried, clearly written by someone who didn't care if the letters slanted or the ink smudged. "Hey Ellie, Mr. Thomas is putting together the school talent show. You should sing. Everyone's talking about it." Smiley face. The forced smiley face at the end was like a punch to the gut. She blinked, reading it again. They knew. Someone had heard her. She'd been so careful, only singing at home, softly, or in the quiet spaces of her mind where it was safe. But now, this? The note wasn't an invitation. It was bait. A trap. Ellie looked around the classroom. Laughter buzzed in low waves from a group near the front, and a few girls glanced in her direction with barely concealed smirks. Her chest tightened, and her cheeks burned. Her voice, her secret, was supposed to be hers. Now it was being used against her. She folded the note back into a neat square and tucked it into her backpack without a word. That night, the Dawson apartment above Carter's auto repair was filled with the sounds of boiling pasta, clanking dishes, and the hum of old plumbing. Ellie sat at the chipped kitchen table, pushing a piece of garlic bread around her plate. Across from her, her dad, Tom Dawson, stirred a pot of spaghetti sauce with one hand while bouncing Ellie's 4-year-old brother Mason on his hip. "Earth to Ellie," Tom said, glancing over. "You're staring at that bread like it owes you money." Ellie gave a half-smile but said nothing. Tom, always tuned into his daughter's moods, set the spoon down and walked over. He gently placed Mason in the old recliner in the corner, where the little boy immediately curled up with his favorite blanket. "What's up, kiddo?" he asked, sliding into the seat across from her. She hesitated, then reached into her backpack and handed him the note. Tom read it slowly, frowning. "Talent show?" "I think it's a joke," Ellie said, staring at the table. "They want me to sing. I think they want to laugh at me." Tom rubbed his stubbled chin. "Do they know you can sing?" She shrugged. "Maybe someone heard me. I don't know. But they don't mean it in a nice way. I know it." Tom studied her for a moment. "Do you want to sing?" Ellie looked up, startled. I don't know. I love it. I really do. But not in front of them. Not like this." Tom leaned back in his chair, the old wood creaking beneath him. "Ellie, you've got a gift. I've heard it. You've got a voice that could stop time. But I get it. You don't want to be laughed at. Still, sometimes the best way to shut people up is to show them who you really are. I don't want to be a joke, Dad, she whispered. You won't be, he said gently. Not with that voice. Over the next few days, the conversation repeated itself in quiet ways, in a raised eyebrow from Tom when she hummed a tune while folding laundry, in his casual, "You thinking about that show?" as they passed flyers in the hallway at school during pickup. Ellie tried to ignore it, to let it go. But part of her, it started to wonder. What if they heard her and didn't laugh? What if they listened? Finally, one evening after dinner, she walked into the living room while Tom was fixing the remote and said, "I want to try. But only if you help me." His face lit up like a Christmas tree. "Help you? Kid, I'll coach you like we're training for the Olympics." And so it began. After Mason fell asleep, Tom and Ellie transformed their cramped living room into a makeshift rehearsal space. Tom borrowed a cheap mic and speaker from a friend who DJ'd weddings on weekends. They set up pillows against the walls to dampen the sound and cleared a space in front of the TV where Ellie could practice standing, breathing, projecting. She chose Leonard Cohen's "Hallelujah," a song she had always loved for its quiet ache and slow, rising hope. The first time she sang it out loud, really let her voice go, Tom had to sit down. It wasn't just beautiful, it was otherworldly. Soulful, raw, haunting. The kind of voice that felt like a secret you'd waited your whole life to hear. He didn't say much after that rehearsal, just nodded, blinking away emotion. As the talent show drew near, the rumors at school grew louder. More notes appeared, snide, sarcastic, some daring her to follow through. Ellie ignored them. She had a new focus now. She was going to sing. Not for them. For herself. The night of the talent show, the auditorium buzzed with teenage energy and nervous laughter. Parents filled the folding chairs, teachers leaned against the walls with clipboards, and the student performers stood backstage, fidgeting and whispering. Ellie stood near the curtain, clutching the microphone like a lifeline. Her stomach flipped with nerves. Her palms were damp. She could hear her name being whispered in the audience already. She's actually doing it. This is gonna be hilarious. From the back of the room, Tom sat in the last row, his arms crossed, a nervous smile on his face. He had taken the night off from the garage and put on his one good shirt. Mason sat in his lap, sleepy but excited. The MC, a peppy 8th grader named Chloe, walked up to the mic. "Next up, we have Ellie Dawson, performing Hallelujah." Scattered chuckles echoed. Ellie stepped into the spotlight. The room fell quiet. She looked out over the crowd, couldn't find her father's face, and panicked. But then she remembered his words, "You won't be a joke." Not with that voice. She closed her eyes. And she sang. At first, it was soft, tentative, trembling, but then the words found her. Her voice grew stronger, richer. The room stilled. The laughter stopped. Even the most cynical students felt something shift, like the air itself had taken a breath. Her voice rose and fell like waves, each note drenched in emotion, each phrase carrying the weight of every insult, every whisper, every night she'd cried in silence. By the time she reached the final verse, her voice cracked just slightly, not from nerves, but from the rawness of what she was feeling. She finished on a soft, clear note that hung in the air like mist after rain. And then, silence. A beat. 2. Then the room exploded in applause. Not polite clapping. Thunderous, standing ovation applause. Students who had never spoken to her stood to their feet. Teachers blinked at each other in amazement. Even the popular kids in the front row sat stunned, their smirks replaced by something far rarer, respect. From the back, Tom stood too, clapping so hard it hurt. He wasn't just proud. He was in awe. Ellie smiled shyly, gave a small bow, and walked off the stage, her heart pounding. She didn't need anyone to tell her, she knew. She had turned a joke into a triumph. That night, as they drove home, Mason fast asleep in the back seat and the cool wind ruffling Ellie's hair through the open window, Tom looked over at her and said, "You didn't just sing, kiddo. You spoke. You told them who you are." Ellie looked out into the night, a soft smile on her lips. "No, Dad," she said. "I showed them."